in the applications that we use for rapid e-learning, for example, Adobe Captivate, being able to use their text-to-speech feature, for example, to include voiceover within the prototype is a very effective way of being able to get something to the client that they can then review and really bring them into the whole process. Because sometimes I think it's very easy for us to sit back and say, okay, it's now my responsibility to build this course from scratch. And I really like the idea of integrating support from clients, from obviously your subject matter experts, etc. And it just really helps to speed up the whole process. You know, the idea of doing the design, then reviewing it, and then once it's been deployed, even with some of the rapid e-learning tools, you can then review it again. And if you need to make changes based on some of the comments you've had from your learners, it's not going to take you 3 or 6 months to go through and make those changes.
That was worth something there.
And also, I think that, you know, one of the great things about prototyping is the fact it just leads to more interesting design.
It does. And also, if you have the budget up front and the customer wants to be involved in the development process as far as what they envision and how you can make that happen, again, you have a better product in the back end because they have been more involved. All too often, people create e-learning with no customer involvement whatsoever. Short of talking to the SMEs, they're not really talking to, or they're not showing anything. And then at the end, the customer looks and goes, I hate this.
Exactly.
And it's such a failed opportunity when it didn't have to be. All you have to do is spend a couple of hours up front creating some interface design, maybe, like you said, prototyping some simple things up front, and then the customer knows what's coming.
Exactly. And another thing I've found very successful is, you know, even at a very early stage, show the e-learning course that you're putting together to some real users and get them to provide you with the feedback. I read a very interesting article this week about a games designer from LucasArts, and he was saying one of the things that he likes to do is to let his mother-in-law try to go through one of the games and see if she can work out how the game is supposed to, you know, proceed and how she's meant to find the various different objects that are built within inside the game and try to go through that whole process. And sometimes using people who have no idea of the course that you're putting together can be a really effective way of going through and getting through all those little niggly issues that may arise later on once you've deployed the course.
I actually wish they would use his grandmother to look at most website design where you can't read the fonts, there's no contrast, all those little things that. And how many e-learning courses have you taken where the buttons are so minimally small and not located any place that's logical? You have to kind of go around searching for them hidden within the interface.
Definitely.
Or again, e-learning where you've got fonts that are 8-point. A little hard to read. Just little things that make a difference when you're trying to reach a wider audience. I guess if you're reaching a group of 16 to 20-year-olds, 8-point is okay. When you're reaching 30 to 50-year-olds, the eyes aren't as good as they used to be.
You're telling me.
Or even, even the considerations going across mobile platforms and desktop PCs. I mean, you have to consider a lot more today with those issues.
You do. Hey,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, another classic example is Father Christmas very kindly brought my family an Xbox Connect this year, which was very well received, to say the least. And we've got quite an old television. And some of the text on the screen of some of these games, etc., is incredibly small. So long term, the kids are desperate for me to invest in getting a new TV just so that they can see the text correctly. And you'd have thought that, you know, with today's technology, they'd be able to ascertain the correct resolution, etc., to display text in some of the games.
60-inch sharp Quadtron. That's the way to go for games.
Do I get one of those at the end of this?
Great article in Fast Company magazine this month.
What, Terrence?
Is that my fee?
Terrence, I was saying there was a great article in Fast Company magazine on gaming and learning and the impact of it. So if anybody's out there at a magazine stand, you might want to pick that one up. Some real good stuff in there.
Yeah, or even pick it up digitally. I think it's on iPads and a couple of other applications. I believe it's on Android too.
Cool. Sounds really good.
How's the
Mark,
chat room doing?
when you're rapid prototyping a course, one thing that I find sometimes in organizations is that they get a reliance on a specific format, and when they first write the format, it might be really intriguing to the learner and captivating to the learner. But over a while, if they're still using the same prototype over the course of an extended time period, sometimes that seems to dull down the learning somewhat when there's no surprise for for the user. How do you avoid that when you're doing rapid prototyping?
Well, again, I think it depends the way in which you design the learning in the first place. I mean, obviously, when you're prototyping, you're going through those various different design iterations. So if, for example, you do find that a learner, or you get feedback saying basically that it's very not necessarily boring, but it's not hitting all those buttons, etc., then you can still have the opportunity to go through and make all those changes. It's like, for example, a lot of stuff that's said about rapid e-learning, it goes upon the lines of, it's just page turning. But I think, again, that we need to bear in mind that books, for example, have pages as well, and it's just the way in which you develop the learning to make sure that you keep that level of motivation and also excitement. I mean, one of the things that I love to do when clients allow me to do this is to make sure that I'm using scenarios and building stories, because I think stories just have such a powerful impact upon the whole learning process.
I think that's a great point. Terrence and I are working on a project right now where, in essence, we're doing just that. We're building a story to teach people all about different processes within companies. And the whole idea is, if you could get a story that relates to a whole mess of people, then you've actually achieved a little bit more, and it becomes something that they can find useful.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the key things with e-learning in general, is that, you have to make sure that it's useful. I think sometimes it's very easy for developers to put courses together, especially if you're working as an internal developer, let's say, for example, something on diversity or health and safety, and, you feel compelled to put loads of information in, for example, about, policies and this sort of thing. And realistically, those things are great, but they're not necessarily going to change behavior. What changes behavior is making sure that you've got activities inside your actual learning program that relate to the actual job in question. And I think that things such as, rules and regulations are types of content that you can put in a little link down the bottom, or make sure that you make available on your intranet or something like that. But sometimes I think the problem can be that we tend to saturate our learners with too much information, and so making sure that we keep it simple is a really important point as well. When I was a classroom trainer, one of the things we were taught was to keep it simple, stupid, and that particular acronym is something that stayed with me all through the years that I've put training together.
We got a question for you from Leva, and she's asking, have you published on small screens like the smartphones?
I've done a little bit on the small screens for smartphones, but only really some of the stuff that I did recently for Adobe, showing the mobile workflow that's available in Adobe eLearning Suite too. It's something I hope to do more of, but at the moment, it's not something clients are really requesting. I'm hoping that's going to change, because then I can justify getting a tablet.
Right, it's slowly getting out there. And you know what? I think when it becomes a little bit more cost effective, and when companies see the benefit of it, and again, a lot of times people talk about a mobile learning workforce, but they forget mobile is a key component of that. If you have people sitting inside an office, they really aren't going to probably learn on a tablet. They're going to be on a PC or something else. But too often, they're talking mobile for the wrong reasons. However, if you've got a mobile workforce, you've got, let's say, utility meter readers, you've got postal workers, you've got people who are out in the field, flight attendants, things that are happening in airplanes, ships, railroads, anywhere where you're not tied to a local computer, then all of a sudden mobile learning makes sense. Doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense inside of a corporation when everybody's at their desk.
No, definitely. And I think something else that I would add as far as mobile learning is concerned is I think it's a great opportunity to include content for job aids as well. You know, putting your job aids in PDF format and incorporating those into the whole mobile workflow can be also very effective.
What I like are the we're getting back to interactivity, are the courses where, these are HR type compliance courses where they try to be interactive. They give you a 1-minute video and then 50 pages of text. Then
yeah.
then a 1-minute video and 50 pages of text. And so you wind up in this, you're pretty catatonic by the time you're done. However, you have had some interactivity with those videos.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, you know, in many cases, you get away with just using static graphics instead of having to use video.
That's true.
Some of those courses.
Yeah, that's true.
Have another question from the chat room here asking, have you done any efficiency testing of the eLearning that you've done?
No, I haven't, to be honest with you, because like I said before, the majority of stuff that I did recently with eLearning was with Adobe for their mobile workflow. So I actually created a quite a significant tutorial showing how to go from Captivate and into Device Central, etc. So we didn't actually get into any of that. But again, it is something I hope to be able to do in the future.
It seems that there's I had posted a LinkedIn conversation in one of the chat groups, I forget which one it was, about an article I had written for Learning Solutions magazine on the use of Facebook as a learning solution. And although there were a lot of people that were interested and eager about the content of the article, there was a sort of a subgroup that was really resistant to even the mention of social media in e-learning or for learning without these controlled studies. And I'm just wondering, sure, the controlled studies are definitely useful and we want to do them, but do we want to hold off on some of this innovative technology until we can do these studies? And I was wondering what your thoughts are on that, Mark, as far as the research and where you see do you see the research driving the use of technology for learning, or do you see the eagerness of learning designers driving the technology in that direction?
I definitely see it to be the eagerness of learning designers. I really enjoyed that article that you wrote on using Facebook as an LMS and using the Facebook API for that matter. And I love social networking. I think it's a very, very powerful medium. I'm a real advocate of Twitter, for example, and I'd love to see more companies integrating Twitter-based functionality into their product range. I know that you can download a widget for Adobe Captivate, for example, that enables you to add a Twitter functionality into your e-learning courses, and I believe now that there's even one for Connect 8, the new version of Connect, which is just great news, because I think that the whole informal and social learning is a very, very powerful medium, to say the least.
That's true. I didn't realize that they had incorporated it or were planning on incorporating it into Connect 8. I'm not sure when that's coming out either. Imminently, I guess. Several months or...
I believe that Connect 8 is either out or it's coming out very shortly. I did see, again on Twitter actually, somebody tweeted that there was a widget type extension that's now available for Connect 8, which includes Twitter functionality. And, I keep in contact with a lot of people via Twitter and learn an awful lot. I think it's a great learning tool, and I'd love to see more of that type of functionality being integrated into e-learning courses.
RJ saying that it is out now.
I thought it was, yeah.
It is already out. Okay.
Thanks, RJ.
Good job, RJ.
I wonder if that's rolled out to all of us, because we have Connect. I have to check and see if that new version has already rolled out. That's interesting. Anything else going on in the chat?
No, we have the usual suspects in there and a couple of new ones. So I just wanted to take a moment here to thank the new ones for joining us in the chat room. And so quite the conversation going on. It looks like the conversation is still extending from the PC versus Apple discussion that we had too. And let me clarify something there. I'm not anti-Apple in any way, shape, or form. Apparently somebody had misunderstood that. So I know, boo, get those crowd noises.